Crashgate. At the inaugural Singapore Grand Prix that was held in 2008, Alonso won the race for the Renault team, but it didn't come without controversy. Upon the dismissal of his teammate Nelson Piquet Jr., following the 2009 Hungarian Grand Prix, the Brazilian driver revealed that he was asked by the team to deliberately crash in the previous year's Singapore event to give Alonso the optimal condition for a race victory. Piquet inexplicably spun in the 15th lap of the Singapore Grand Prix, bringing out the safety car. Alonso made a pit stop before the accident, promoting him as race leader after passing cars that haven't pitted yet. He would go on to hold on to it until the checkered flag after starting the race in 15th. Even on the same day, the first speculations came up as Alonso's strategy was deemed unusual. Managing Director Flavio Briatore and Executive Director of Engineering Pat Simmons both left after the controversy. Years later, it was revealed that the team only did this because the Renault bosses in France demanded a race win. Otherwise, they wanted to pull the trigger and exit F1. Since Alonso then won the Japanese Grand Prix on his own power, it rendered the Crashgate scandal obsolete, and Renault still exited F1 as a works entry after 2010. Spygate. In 2007, several F1 teams were implicated in what was one of the worst scandals to hit the sport. The Scuderia Ferrari and McLaren team were involved in the incident that resulted in one of the biggest fines to be ever handed out by the FIA. It started when senior Ferrari engineer Nigel Stepney leaked confidential information to McLaren chief designer Mike Coughlin. The leaked material was a massive 780-page dossier containing detailed data about Ferrari's 2007 car, including its design, setup and race strategies. Initially, McLaren claimed that Coughlin acted alone and that the team had never used Ferrari's information. However, evidence later emerged of internal emails between McLaren engineers discussing Ferrari data, undermining the team's defense. In September 2007, the FIA found McLaren guilty of possessing and potentially using Ferrari's confidential information. McLaren was also disqualified from the 2007 Constructors' Championship and was given a record $100 million fine, the largest in sports history at the time. Stepney was later convicted in Italy for his role in the affair, and Coughlin was suspended and eventually banned from Formula One, though he later returned to motorsport. Abu Dhabi 2021. In what's undoubtedly the most controversial scandal in F1 in the 2020s, former F1 race director Michael Masi might have inadvertently changed the course of F1 history by making a judgment call at the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Heading into the event, seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton was leading the drivers' point standings and was poised to claim his 8th title and his 5th straight. However, standing in his way was young gun Max Verstappen, who's currently tied with him at 369.5 points, the first time since 1974 in which both championship aspirants are on level pegging heading into the last race. By lap 53, Nicholas Latifi spun and crashed at turn 14, which required a safety car. Verstappen used this opportunity to get fresher tyres as Hamilton held on to the lead with older tyres. Given that the race was under safety car conditions, the rule stipulated that all lap cars shall be allowed to unlap themselves. However, Masi made a drastic call by letting only the cars between Hamilton and Verstappen to unlap themselves, in addition to pulling the safety car without completing the extra lap required after the lap cars had unlapped themselves. This left one racing lap under regulation and a chance for Verstappen, who was on better tyres, to challenge and eventually usurp Hamilton and the 2021 driver's title.
No, Mike!
Which led to the iconic Toto Wolff cry, "Mikey, this is so not right." For his drastic calls, Masi was removed as Formula One race director. Randy Lanier. If you watch the movie American Made, chances are you know what former commercial pilot Barry Seals, who was portrayed by Tom Cruise, business was. Well, racer Randy Lanier was its motorsport counterpart. Lanier is an American racing driver, best known for the dramatic dual life he led in the 1980s. Rising quickly through sports car racing, he became one of IMSA's top talents, winning the 1984 IMSA Camel GT Championship with his independent Blue Thunder racing team, and later earning Rookie of the Year honours at the 1986 Indianapolis 500. Behind the success, however, Lanier was secretly funding his racing career through a massive marijuana smuggling enterprise that imported huge quantities of cannabis into the United States. His operation eventually unravelled, and in 1988 he was convicted of running a continuing criminal enterprise, receiving a mandatory life sentence without parole. After serving roughly 27 years, Lanier was released in 2014.
My cut was right at $10 million.
Since then, he's spoken publicly about his past, appeared in documentaries such as Netflix, Bad Sport, Need for Weed, and has worked within the now legal cannabis industry while occasionally reconnecting with motorsport. Timo Sheeb-in Raus. In 2015, one of the most bizarre scandals happened in DTM. Driver Timo Scheider, who was driving an Audi, was allegedly instructed by Audi's motorsport head, Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich, to sheeb in raus, or in English, push him out. The incident happened during a rainy Spielberg race as Mercedes driver and future Formula E champion Pascal Wehrlein was leading the championship standings. Heading into turn 3, Wehrlein was leading the three-pack of himself, fellow teammate Robert Wickens and Scheider. As Wehrlein tried to cover Wickens on the right-hand turn, Scheider inexplicably accelerated in what looked like a braking zone heading into the next turn. This set off Wickens barrelling onto Wehrlein as the championship leader pirouetted to the gravel along with his teammate. For the move he pulled, Scheider was disqualified from the race and was prevented from racing the following week in Moscow. Toyota Turbo Restrictor cheat. In what was the biggest scandals in WRC history, the Toyota Team Europe was implicated for utilising a highly sophisticated illegal device that bypassed the mandatory turbo restrictor, a metal plate that limits airflow and keeps the engine power within regulations. The manufacturer built a clever mechanism that allowed the restrictor to move slightly away from its housing when the turbo was under load, creating a small gap through which extra air could be drawn into the engine. This produced a significant and illegal boost increase while appearing fully compliant during static inspections. The FIA described it as the most ingenious device seen in 20 years, highlighting its precision and difficulty to detect. Once discovered at the Rally Catalunya 1995, Toyota and its drivers were stripped of all points for the season and the team was banned from the WRC for 12 months. The scandal severely damaged Toyota's reputation at the time, though the manufacturer later returned to rallying and eventually reclaimed success in the modern WRC era. Wendell Scott's sole victory. On December 1st, 1963, Wendell Scott made history by being the first African-American driver to score a race victory in NASCAR's highest level, which was then known as the Grand National Series. Scott won the Jacksonville 200 at Speedway Park in Jacksonville, Florida, but it didn't come without controversy. Although Scott won the race fair and square after passing Richard Petty on his Chevrolet Bel Air, second place Buck Baker was initially declared as the winner and was given a brief podium ceremony. After review, however, it was revealed that Scott was 2 laps ahead of Baker and discreetly corrected the results in favour of the African-American driver. Due to him not being initially declared the winner, he wasn't able to celebrate the race win, and his family didn't receive the trophy until 2021, 58 years after the controversial race. Given its southern roots and the context it entailed, Scott remains as one of the gleaming symbols of perseverance in NASCAR. Coincidentally, in the same year that he was awarded a posthumous trophy for his race win, Bubba Wallace became just the second African-American driver to win a NASCAR Cup race, doing so in the rain-shortened Talladega 500 of that season. 1966 Le Mans photo finish. If you watch the Ford vs Ferrari movie, then you'll be familiar with what transpired at the 1966 24 Hours Le Mans. Happening at the onset of the Ford-Ferrari rivalry, it was the American manufacturer that dominated the race with its Ford GT40 MK2 after years of dominance from the Italian outfit. It also marked the first win for an American manufacturer in a major European event since the 1921 French Grand Prix when Jimmy Murphy won with his Duesenberg. Although the weight of the race couldn't be overstated due to the effect it would have in the future of motorsport, its finish should also be remembered as one of the biggest missed chances in racing history. Englishman Ken Miles was comfortably leading the race when a call was made by the team to establish a dramatic ending featuring 3 Ford cars at the podium. Miles honoured the request and slowed down so teammates Bruce McLaren and Chris Amon could catch up. While Miles was able to cross the line first, the Le Mans rules stipulated that the race winner was determined by the total distance covered in the race. Given that Amon's car started further down the grid, the driver along with Bruce McLaren were declared race victors, with Miles coming in at second. This denied Miles of a possible sweep in the Triple Crown of endurance racing after he'd won that year's 24 Hours of Daytona and 12 Hours of Sebring. Rossi Marquez, Sepang 2015. In what was already a high-emotion atmosphere leading to the 2015 Malaysian Grand Prix at Sepang, multi-time MotoGP champion Valentino Rossi accused then two-time champion Marc Marquez of intervening with proceedings to help Jorge Lorenzo in the driver's standings. After exchanges in Argentina, the Netherlands and Australia, it all came to blows at the Sepang circuit in Malaysia as Rossi collided with Marquez at turn 14 on lap 7. The Doctor was able to continue the race while Marquez retired in the pit lane. The Italian was then issued 3 penalty points and was tasked to start at the back of the grid in the championship decider at Valencia. Although Rossi drove an amazing race that saw him finish 4th, it was Lorenzo who won the race in Spain and ultimately the Riders' Championship in his home country. The incident between Rossi and Lorenzo further exacerbated the divide between fans of MotoGP and soured relations between different sides in the paddock. Max Mosley scandal. Max Mosley's sex scandal erupted in March 2008 when a British tabloid published secretly recorded footage of the then FIA president participating in a consensual BDSM session with several women. The newspaper framed the encounter as having a Nazi theme, a claim Mosley strongly denied, and no evidence ever substantiated that allegation. Mosley argued that the report was an unjustified invasion of privacy, and the issue quickly escalated into a major public controversy due to his prominent role in international motorsport governance. He took legal action against the newspaper and won, with the UK court ruling that his privacy had been violated and awarding him damages. Although Mosley remained in his FIA position until the end of his term in 2009, the scandal put significant pressure on his leadership and intensified debates about media ethics, personal privacy, and the boundaries between a public figure's private life and their professional responsibilities. Now, if you found this video interesting, you may also want to watch this video next. I wish you have all a great time, and I'll see you soon.